Hey, welcome everybody to this week's episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. We started it last week. It's okay. If you're just catching this for the first time, don't worry about it. I'll include a link down in the description or in the end card, whatever. You'll find it, right? So end card, which way does the end card go? Anyway, you get the idea, right? So we'll make sure that you can catch up on it. But what we're going to take a look at is this idea of Kudai Dori, right? Kudai Dori generally roughly translated as taking the proper space, position. I'll write position today just so I don't confuse those who like to take things literally, right? Okay, kudai. There's like a position, but it's all relative, right? Dori means to catch, to seize, to take, that kind of thing, right? Are there other words for those? Of course, right? Once you get into Japanese language, everything kind of shifts, right? But here's the focus for today. What we're going to take a look at today is the inner game that's being played between not just me, but also my assailant or assailants, right? So last episode, we took a look at environment and physical, and we'll recap some of these things up here. But what I really want to take a look at is the inner world, right? That's going to be affecting what our body's able to do, how we're able to position, or how we should position ourselves relative to somebody that's coming in, right? So 3 big things today. We're going to take a look at a contradiction between the way we as human beings are wired, right, to act or to learn, right? How we learn best, right? So we're going to take a look at that paradigm, right? There are exceptions always in the rule or whatever, but generally speaking for human beings, right, how we learn best. And then what we're going to do is flip that and take a look at this contradiction, because the way we operate as human beings in a given situation or in any given situation is almost exactly opposite the learning curve, right? And this is something that's huge that's missed in a lot of educational programs, let alone martial arts, right? Where there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And most, people are used to seeing this idea that, and this kind of thing gets thrown around the martial arts a lot, right? This whole idea of body, mind, say it with me. Yeah, there you go. Spirit, right? Okay. So again, this is another one of those things like my weapon's an extension of my body and use his energy against him and all that. Things that are easily said, but it's been my experience that even those people who say them and sound very, very logical when they're describing things, their body's not doing the thing that they think they're doing. Okay. So body, mind, spirit, right? In Japan, typically you're not going to see body, mind, spirit. What you're going to see is body, mind, because this idea of shin, right? Kokoro, right? The heart, shin, right? Our core is actually made up of mind, spirit, emotions, those kind of things, right? So it's this inner world. So what we're really talking about is outer world, inner world kind of thing. I believe in the last session that we had, right, we talked about in the Koto school, there's this on the kamae list, right, under Kudai Dori, which is why I think a lot of people just go, well, Kudai Dori, it's just all about kamae. It is, but not as limited as most people would approach it, right? What we talked about was at the very beginning of the scroll, there's this idea of Migi Segan and Hidati Segan, right? I just did that backwards for you, right? But Migi Segan means right Segan, as in the right, my right, right? Your right, right? Okay. And then Hidati Segan is left Segan. Way back in the old days, they used to say sa and you. It's a different way of saying left and right. But are they really pointing to right side, left side, right? Of course, there's always an emote, obvious, frontal kind of thing. But there's also this ura, hidden side of things, right? What we're really talking about with right and left is not directions, but right side, kind of like the right side of God, right hand of God, whatever, right, is the ideal, right? I'm in complete control of the situation, right? Here's the ideal. Hidati, right? The left side, not so ideal, right? It's more emotive. There's a lot of stress and shit going on or whatever. So we're going to do the best we can with the principles and concepts and whatnot under the given situation, okay? So if you were in on the Friday virtual call last week, what we did was we really focused on just one of the physical aspects, right? One of the physical aspects, not I mean, everybody's always working on, kamae relative to him and that kind of thing, but to not trip over this idea of tai sabaki, right? Body management relative to him and whatnot. They're connected. But what I did was I made it all environmental. So if you were in on that class, it was freaking awesome because I put them into a box. I used I'll show you this thing, right? I used all these targets and these kind of things that I have, right? I used those, I used chairs, whatever, and I created a situational environment that they had to operate in, right? And then as everybody that was in that luckily we had a small group, right? But everybody that was in that little box that I created, right? They were just given a technique, keep working this thing, right? And then what I did systematically over one of the drills was I went around and just kept shoving the chairs and the targets and whatnot in closer and closer. So their box got smaller and smaller that they had to operate in. And then they had other moving bodies around because there were other people working as well, okay? This happened a lot, and it happens a lot in Japan because Westerners tend to only want to go to Japan when the weather is perfect, right? Well, anybody can do shit when it's perfect, right? How about when it's not so perfect? But anyway, right, so we tend to steer our trips around those so that we're not there for more than a couple of days as everybody starts coming in, right? So it's either going to be really hot moving into nice weather, or it's going to be nice moving into very uncomfortable or cold if we're doing spring winter kind of connection or whatever. So it keeps the numbers down in the dojo, right? But there's always special events and all those kind of things, right? So what ends up happening is there's tons and tons of people in the dojo, right? Dojo can probably comfortably handle 30 to 50 people, and I've been there training when there's been 200, right, in the same space, right? And then people are getting pissed off because other people are in their way and they don't have room to do things. Or welcome to a store on some shopping special holiday, or at a park, or at a concert, or whatever, right? If we're only ever training in this sterile environment where there are no obstacles, the floor is even, there's nothing to trip over, all that kind of stuff, how much are we really training? Okay? Anybody can get good in an environment, right? So even the Dalai Lama of Tibet, right, big teacher of esoteric Buddhism, said it's really easy to go off to the mountains or the woods and become enlightened. But you want to be very, very careful when you come back into the city, lest one steps off a curb and gets run over by a bus, okay? So there are these three aspects, right? And again, just as a quick review, right, under the body, right, we've got physical positioning relative, how I'm going to position my body to him. So this is, kamae, right? But my question is, which kamae? Which kamae best fits the situation, the distance, and some other factors we're going to be talking about in that given situation? What's proper, okay? Proper, like in Buddhism, where they say right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, those kind of things. Right doesn't mean right dogmatic over wrong. Proper, right, whatever, based on our style over what everybody else is doing. What it means is right, correct, proper, most effective, most appropriate, whatever, for the given situation. Not just a blanket, do whatever the hell you want, because this is what our style does. Well, pride goes before the fall. But anyway, right, so it's physical. Like on the Fridays class, we dealt with environmental factors, right? What's the ground like? Other environmental things like your clothing and stuff, right? Your shoes. How is that operating on the surface that you're on, right? Do you have thick treads, but you're in mud and goop, so really difficult picking up foot up and moving it or whatever, right? Are you in socks on a carpeted floor like we have here, which causes people to slip if there's too much tension? That's by design. Thank you very much. Okay. What else? I did mention clothing, right? Obstacles, environments, obstacles, right? Clothing, his and yours. Okay. His size relative to your size, right? All that kind of stuff, right? Mental, right? Mental could be what I think is going on in the situation, right? So, situational assessment, right? If I get this wrong, I'm going to be defending against something that's not actually happening, and I'm going to get caught, right? I'm making assumptions, okay? But I need assuming, and assessing are two completely different things, right? So situational assessment based on what's going on, what I think I know, right? So my options, right? What kind of options do I think I have, right? So this plays into like strategy and tactics and those kind of things, right? Strategy and tactics that I would choose to do whatever I need to do based on this person. Programming, internal programming, okay? So it could be like your fight style, okay? Could be what you learned, what you trained in, and what you learned, or just kind of came up with it over the years by yourself because you've got lots of thuggery, right? Street experience kind of stuff, right? All that kind of stuff, right? Spirit, what's going on in here? Well, this is where like emotional stuff is happening, right? So what's my emotional state, right? What's his emotional state, right? Is he coming at me like this cold, calculated, just run all over the place, but if I get my hands on you, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, right? How am I emotively handling with that, right? Or is this guy like bull rushing in, or is he yelling and screaming, all that kind of stuff? Not just my emotional state, his emotional state, okay? The overall feel, right, of the situation, okay? So other kind of tension, right? Those kind of things, right? Mentally over here, I might also be, my head might be partially wrapped around the fact that my wife or my grandson or whatever is with me. And I got to make sure they're okay while I'm dealing with jackwagon here, right? That's going to create a certain emotional kind of thing or a certain tension, right? I might hear her screaming, right? I might hear, him crying, whatever. All that kind of stuff is going to create these different things, right? So just like last time, it is very, very difficult to cover all of this. I can cover that much, right? But that much is going to make a huge difference in your training if you can work this stuff in, okay? So what we're going to focus on today is that emotional state, right? Because we're just going to kind of rely on the fact that we've learned stuff, so we've got options in there, right? And we've practiced with our body, so we've got some skill sets, right? But what are the emotions doing, right? What are they doing to affect the other ones, right? What do certain emotional states do by causing certain muscles to tighten down or whatever, to put me in certain kind of positions or covering or extended or whatever, right? How does that affect the spine, right? We don't have time to go into all this stuff. It's just not doable, right? But the emotional state also affects what we think or what strategies and tactics we may apply so that physically and mentally, right, we have time, we have space, we have options, those kind of things, and we can think relatively clearly in the situation, okay? But here's the thing, right? There is a huge difference, right? There's a huge difference between the way we human beings tend to learn best and the way we operate automatically in a situation, okay? So the learning curve, right? The learning curve for human beings, typically, right, is that we do, right, hands-on, right? We do this thing, right? We, think about it. So it's body and then it's mind, right? We get our head wrapped around how this thing works. Think about it in class, in your martial arts class, right? You learn to put your body in a given situation or whatever, okay? And then you work some techniques and stuff, and you start to get your head around, oh, okay, this is like a long-range defensive covered kind of position. This, I'm moving in on him, so I'm not going to have my arms out unless I'm punching, but I still have this cover going on, so this is more of a close range, mid-range kind of thing. This one, you get the idea, right? So we start to get our head wrapped around it, and then based on this process, we human beings, unless we're just flat out sociopaths that have no emotional connection or whatever, it's just, when people go, oh, I don't have one feeling either way. 99.8% of people who say that are full of shit because what they're trying to do is stay neutral in a sterile environment. Okay? They're trying to sound like they've got all their shit together. When the reality is when the shit hits the fan, right? Things change very, very differently because you can see those same people go defensive. What do you mean by that? Or they become very angry, right? Whatever, right? Okay, everything changes, right? But we learn by doing. We think about it and get that in our head. Okay, I don't care if it's a math class, whatever, right? you're taught this formula to solve a problem. So, okay, you just keep working the formula for your homework. And then, I start to understand, okay, this is how and why it works, right? Great. But what ends up happening after that is we have a feeling. And I don't mean we love it, we hate it, whatever. Some people will say that, love it, hate it, loathe it, or whatever. I'm talking about a very base, primitive kind of attraction, repulsion kind of thing. And what that does is it gets reduced to simply an attraction, a repulsion, or kind of like doing the dishes, right? If I didn't have a dishwasher, right, doing the dishes. I'm here about doing dishes. Some people love it. Whistle while they're doing things, right? Other ones loathe it, right? They're slamming dishes around because they had to do this thing. Damn it, whatever, right? I'm like, there's dirty dishes. I've got time, and I'd like to not die of botulism. Cool. How about if I just do the dishes? I don't have to like it, okay? Just like some of the skill sets. There's certain skill sets I'm not so attracted to. But discipline, the mental stuff, overrides the feeling. Right? Nothing pisses me off more than when somebody uses the word feel where the word think belongs. Right? I get it. There's lots of feeling, but would you rather drive a car over a bridge where the bridge was designed by an engineer who had his shit together, understands the physical structure of things, and he understands the science about how it works, and he applies that? Or he just created something and just, I feel like that should work. Which one are you going to drive over? I know some of you guys are risk takers, but this is about survival, so this one's not doing it. But either way, this is the learning curve. For most people, we learn fastest by doing, right? Doing the thing, hands-on. We think about it, and we understand how it's working. The more we do it, the more we understand. We start to run into exceptions, problem areas, whatever. So we keep on doing the do, solving those things. We understand more about it, whatever, right? But we end up, so the problem we have in martial arts is people end up having favorite techniques. And then that's what draws them to always be doing the same shit the same way. And then a lot of other skills just go to hell in a handbasket, right? For my students, I'm constantly reminding them, no favorites, both sides, left, right, whatever. You can't have a good side and a weak side, whatever, okay? So, you can because you're grown-ups. You can do whatever the hell you want, right? But anyway, now when it comes to the guy on the street, I'm not re-educating him. I want him to show me what his favorites are because that's how he's coming, right? So what I need to do is make sure that my training understands that, right? On the physical side that we were looking at before, right? There's certain tells, certain fight styles, right? Mental kind of contributed to physical, right? If I do my ninja research and I start to pay attention how certain styles or certain stylists or whatever move, how they position their body before an attack happens, right? If I study facial microexpressions and body language, I can start to see, 113, 120 cues or whatever. I only need a couple of them to know when this guy's about to go and when he's just talking smack, right? All those things help me to take proper position before, during, and after the engagement, okay? And I don't mean we're getting married engagement. Anyway, right? So learning curve is do, think, feel, right? Right? The acting, how human beings actually engage with a challenge or a problem or something they're learning or something they have to do or whatever, right? Is exactly the opposite, right? Wheeling, okay? I like it, I don't like it, I don't care one way or the other, right? But we have this thing that draws us in, right? And then based on what we think we know about the situation or whether we can get out of it or not, right? Whatever, okay? Then we go into action. See the problem? I hope so. It's the problem in most martial arts training programs, in most martial arts schools, most self-defense schools and all that. What do? They stay right here. And this is optional if it's even discussed at all. You're out there sparring and stuff, and this guy's a little more intense, right? And you're doing this kind of thing, right? And your teacher's yelling, "Get in there, don't back up, get him." Except there's a part of you going, "Screw this, I need to put some distance between he and I," right? That's a part of kamae as well. It's a part that a lot of people have been taught and or believe that some other teacher early in the days coming out of Japan, learning from the master teachers, right? He made that stuff up, so we don't actually do that. Okay, well, really? Okay, is everything I learned about Kudai Dori? It's absolutely an aspect of it, right? But what we have to do is try to make sure that our training, yep, this is in here when I'm learning physical skills or physical techniques. But at a certain point in my training, intermediate stuff, that kind of stuff, right? I better put things in place to make sure that I can do these things, right? Do my kata, my skill, when this stuff's driving, when that process is driving. That process helps us learn fast. That process is going to be happening automatically. And if this doesn't match that in the moment that you need it, shit's going to hit the fan, as my dad used to always say, right? So let's take a look at some emotional kind of things, his and mine, that might be going on in a situation. And again, if you can make it for Friday's class, we're going to be talking about how to choose proper kamae to fit into certain these situations and how they best fit, how to assess, how to let feeling and head work together to kind of adjust for space, time, distance, all that kind of stuff, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to use a framework that I borrow that's 1,600 years old, right? Those of you who are my students that have studied some of the Mikyo with me or have seen some of the books and everything, right? You might be familiar with this concept of these mandala, right? So this is called the Kongokai Mandala, and it's not important that you know the whole thing, right? There's lots of different ways to look at this. This actually represents energy and motion and potentials and interactions and all that, where the other mandala, right, represents potentials and the way things kind of show up in the world and manifestation. That's manifestation. This is transformation or whatever, right? Historically, these were like 9 completely different mandala. They were brought together so that you could show interaction and process. But what I'm concerned about and what I'm going to use is a framework to help you relate faster, because that's what I'm all about. You get in my programs, what I'm trying to do is give you things so that you can get your head wrapped around this stuff and you can make progress faster and easier than I had to, because I had some of these and not others and whatever, okay? So if you notice, these bottom 6 all have the same layout. We're going to borrow that layout to look at 4, if not 5, mental states or strategic modes that the attacker might be coming in on, right? And we're going to take a look at 4 or 5 emotional modes or whatever and strategies that we could use. And then I'm going to show you how we can tactically match ours to theirs to always, or almost always, right? Because nothing's guaranteed, right? To virtually always have the right kamae, the right positioning, the right Kudai Dori against this person. Okay. So again, last time we talked about physical stuff and how you might or might not be able to do a technique based on how your limbs are lined up with his and whether it can actually work, regardless of whether you're just a superstar in the dojo or not. You know what? I know I get sidetracked and all that, but I'm going to show you something that relates to last week's, right? Okay. So that's a nose. Make that a little bit less witchy poo like, right? So here's this guy, right, in front of me, right? We'll say he's got his fist up, whatever. He got fist in place, right? Could be holding 2 beers, who knows, right? Anyway, right? So he's in front of me, okay? The way I'm lined up across from him will actually change things. This is part of the Kudai Dori, right? People tend to stay with the base models, which are the initiations or the introduction to the training, and they don't work the variations. They don't work things, or they don't even know, well, see, a variation is I could grab him instead of punching him, or I could kick him instead of grabbing him. Or, okay, they are, right? If you're still in the 3 to 6 year old stage of your training, right? What I'm looking at is being lined up where my nose and my sternum and all that, we're nose to nose, eye to eye is what normally people say, right? So in the world, right, I'm lined up with my own image in the camera here, right? Now, what's not going to be easy for anybody to understand or see, and it doesn't work for me either, is if I shift from one side to the other, okay? Now my image on the camera moves, but all you're seeing is me shifting this way, right? So what we're looking at is when I'm lined up, my nose, one of my shoulders, other shoulder, whatever, are lined up on center, right? Which means that my limbs in whatever kamae I choose are going to have a very specific relationship to parts of his body. And his fist, in this case, I put him in kind of a, I don't know, weird boxer karate pose or whatever, right? His fists are going to line up with openings or targets or whatever in a very specific way, right? But let's leave Joe Cool, stickman fighter here, right, in the same place. What if, right, I move a half a foot's width? All I did was move my foot like that distance, right? So maybe a foot's width, whatever, right? Which now lines my center, my nose and sternum this way. Now my kamae and positioning are going to have a different relative alignment to his body. And you got to find a training partner and work this out, okay? Because this changes everything. And what he has access to and the angles of attack are going to be different. Where one, he's coming in this way. If I move slightly and he's over here, see, now both of his limbs can come in. And so my relative position, you get the idea, right? Do I have another color here? What if I move in the other direction? Okay? Because over here, right, on center, my shoulders were lined up with his shoulders and all that. Over here, one shoulder is going to be lined up, but my other shoulder is over here, right? Over here, one shoulder is lined up, but another shoulder is over here. The lines change, okay? Kamae means posture, position, mind, body, spirit, attitude, that kind of thing, right? There's a whole lot more to posture. The way most people associate with kamae is they're just using a different word, but in their head, they still mean stance. The Japanese word for stance, covered that in the last episode, right? The Japanese word for stance is dachi. Dachi are named for the position of the legs. Kamae are named for the position of the upper torso and the limbs. In ninjutsu, kamae are named for that and mental state and the spirit. It's all different. Look at some of Hatsumi Sensei's books on Bojutsu and some of these other ones that are written in Japanese. He's got a whole bunch of pictures in the middle with all these kamae names, right? Well, that looks like Jodan. That looks like, yeah, but there's a lot more going on here and here, right? We're in the realm of the kokoro, right? Kokoro no kamae, kamae the heart, right? Kage no kamae, right? Hiding your intentions, all these kind of things. It's all different, okay? It's all different. Anyway, that's enough for physical. Right, let's start baking our noodles now. This is very, very challenging for a lot of people to get because martial artists, by and large, are very physically oriented. Right, they're also high on the judgment scale and high on the conceptualization scale. Not so high on the feeling scale and not so high on the consciousness scale. Okay, going through these 5 skandhas that we have in our Mikyo training. Okay, anyway, got programs for all these things for anybody that's interested. All right, so let's do that pattern. We're just gonna take that entire mandala and bake it down to this outline that I give my students, so that we can look at how any given thing relates and whatnot. Right? Okay. So you don't need to know the elements or anything like that. If you're really that interested, we'll talk about it at some point, right? But anyway, I'm going to use a red marker so we can, as I jot out things, because that's going to represent the attacker, right? And what they're doing, right? And then I'll grab, like, I don't know, blue or whatever to represent us, or maybe I'll just continue to write it in black because, you know, ninja black, right? Okay. So let's look at fight modes. Let's look at fighter intention, right? Let's look at, and they tend to match up with personality type, right? People are just a personality, go-getters, athletes and all that tend to gravitate toward martial arts that are that way, right? People that tend to be more laid back, more, hey, you know, if he comes at me, I just want to be able to like redirect him, do do a little bit, whatever, and get maximum results. They tend to be more wind-like and all that. You get the idea, right? People tend to gravitate towards certain things. People that are more of an earth-like, strength-based person tend to gravitate more toward like wrestling kind of things, right? So it's not to say that these other things aren't operating, because very few people are that extreme. I've met a couple, and I'm sure you have as well. So let's just very quickly take a look at a couple of fight styles, fight methodologies, right? And so we'll go around with those very, very quickly. And then what we're going to do is take a look at emotive states that he might be in. And then we'll come back to us, okay? So first one, right? Let's call this, I would say fast and furious, but fast and direct, right? So this is this guy, right? Wanting to get in there, right? Could be boxer coming in with jabs, could be, whatever, right? But it's this guy who's just going to be pressing in. He's going to take the fight to you. He's coming in, right? Could be a shoot fighter, right? Boom, where they're trying to get in on you very, very quickly and take the fight to you and get things done, okay? Opposite of them is we have the wind-up, right? Fighter, okay? This guy needs more space and time, so it's not that he's not going to punch you or whatever, but this guy, right, needs this kind of thing, right? So he might jab more so he can get that extra time for this, right? I'd rather be hit a couple of times by this guy because he's giving up power for speed. This guy, no. He's setting up his shot and giving you more, right? Like an ocean wave kind of thing, okay? So I'd rather be hit by this guy than this guy if I have to be hit. But you get the idea, right? Okay. This guy over here, right? What we have over here, I'm going to call the slick and flighty. Slick and flighty, right? So this guy, right, just coming in to get you, right? Just coming in, right? This guy, right, over here trying to be all tricky and that kind of thing, right? Where he's trying to confuse you and get you all kind of caught up in all this stuff, so you start to watch for anything so he can get that shot in, right? So he's the stick and move kind of guy, but it's all about confusion. It's all about what's some of this, that kind of thing. But he's all over the place, right? So this is the wind realm. So he's all over the place, right? This guy here, this is the pounder. Okay, more often than not, a grab and pounder. Right? This is the guy that just wants to get a hold of you so he can it's like putting you in a vice and then hammering down on you. Big guys, big guys that know that they're slower, not going to be bouncing around and all that kind of stuff, right? They're just going to wait it out, especially the ones that have a lot of armor. You can be hitting them a couple of times and whatnot. It's just, if you don't hit them in the right places, it's not going to shut them down. This guy just wants to grab you and drive. Or he's the guy that'll come up behind you and grab you in a bear hug and pick you up, throw you across the room. That kind of thing, right? Very, very different fight methodologies. Okay? Very different, right? What about this guy in here? This guy in here is more of a chameleon. He can shift, change, whatever. But this is also the realm of the non-physical fighting. This is the guy that, sets you up so you hurt yourself. This is the guy that's gaslighting you. This is the guy that's setting you up to look bad in front of your boss so he can take your job. That kind of stuff, right? So let's just stay with these guys out here, right? Can some people be good at more than one? Of course, right? We're training to be good at more than one. But here's my point, right? In the classical models that most people adhere to, you're only working with one type of fighter, one type of puncher, kicker, whatever, right? And you typically start from one place, and then you start from one place, and then you do your thing, right? It's an initiation, right? What about all this shit that's going on before he throws the first punch, grab, or kick, or the knife, or the bullet, or whatever it is, right? This changes everything, okay? This changes everything, right? So we'll stay with the red. I'm just going to shift out to a thicker marker, right? So this is mental, right? This is not that he's not feeling certain things in there or whatever, but this is based on mental strategy, right? This is my fight style, right? I'm going to move in there, take the fight to you, right? Like a Chuck Liddell kind of guy. I don't think he's still in MMA or whatever, right? But as soon as the first bell rang, first round, right? He was in there trying to just drive things in to break somebody down. If he could, fight was over, he won. If he didn't, his fights lasted longer. Okay? So how do we neutralize the advantage this guy has? How do we neutralize the advantage this guy has? How do we advantage or neutralize you get the idea? Okay. So we need to understand it and we need to train with it. We need to be able to match our kamae and all that, but not just the physical kamae, because each of these guys are going to make you emotionally feel a certain way, right? Some of the people in my training group, this guy comes in, they want to like shift away or get all evasive and stuff like that because they don't want any problem with that, right? Other people, more A personality types that are uber competitive, this guy flares, they flare, and now you got this two bulls slamming into each other kind of thing, because we're just going to see, well, let's just see what happens. Screw that. I don't want to see what happens, right? I'm going to engineer what happens, okay? But this is mental, right? But what about the emotional stuff? Because this guy could be using any tactical approach, but what he's coming at you emotionally, presence, intent, those kind of things could be very, very different, right? This guy is coming at you with rage. Don't ignore that. That's different, right? Just because I'm talking about certain types of attackers coming in fast and furious and direct and all that kind of stuff, right? Doesn't mean the guy's enraged. He could be happy. He could be happy as a freaking lark, right? Because he just sees bloodlust and just goes, right? But this guy's coming in with all kinds of just to get you, right? Okay. This guy, very calm, right? Very collected. Again, you have to separate out. If I have to, I'll erase the damn things. But separate out type of fighter or fight style with what they are in the moment relative to you. Because if they were coming at somebody different than you, what you present in the world to them and what sparked them deciding that you were the victim might have them in a completely different place. So don't take this as it's going to be one and it goes with this type of attack. See, that's what gets most people in trouble, right? He punches me, I'm going to do shiaku. And really? Well, good luck with that, okay? So calm, cool, collected, raging, right? This guy is more of a coming at you, but he might not be coming in at all, right? This guy might be the carefree. Carefree. I don't care if you hit me or not, right? Take your best shot, right? This guy approaches you almost like the sacrificial lamb. Okay. Have you seen these guys? Right? Thinking that as soon as you take your shot, they're going to pull back and be able to do something, but they keep baiting you, right? The ones that make you want to punch him in the face, okay? That's this guy. He's not bouncing all over the place, but he is, right? Freaking little pigeon. Anyway, so I got that guy, right? And then this guy right here, okay? This is the scientific fighter, right? This is the guy that's coming at you, right, with logic, right? They're looking at stuff. They're watching how you're positioned and all that kind of stuff. They're not easily baited. Like if you stick a hand out there or you do that, they're not taking that trap. This guy right here is a thinker, right? This guy is waiting and biding his time to take that best shot, okay? So he may even lure you in. He may do this kind of thing so that as you come in, then he can take you, okay? Very, very different, right? What am I picking up from these people? What am I picking up? This guy, the flip side to this guy right down here, because it's a water kind of thing, right, is this guy is, he's angry, but he's over emotional, right? So he just might be just, pushing you away and then wanting to hit you, that kind of thing, right? Very, very chaotic in here as well. This guy, carefree sacrificial, instead of being sacrificial, this guy might be coming in, doing this kind of thing where he's just throwing shit all over the place, right? Maybe he has little to no training. He's just throwing as much out there, hoping that some of it hits, right? In gun training, we call that spray and pray, right? But either way, right? If we're not training against these different types of people and learning how to apply and position ourselves relative to them so that we're safe and we have an advantage or we have an escape route or whatever, it's going to be very difficult. Most people are not going to want to look at this stuff, right? It's too difficult. What's easier? The learning curve. Learn the kata, practice the kata, you get it right, understand why, and a whole bunch of other historical tidbits, right? And then the feeling is, I feel proud because I know this if they don't. Yeah? Can you apply that whether or not they can, right? So this is on their side, right? This is on their side. We're going to flip it. We're going to look at us. What time do I have here? Oh, ooh. I know how you guys love short, entertaining videos, and here I am teaching, right? Oh, well. The people that are serious about learning and not just being entertained by a dancing monkey in a martial arts outfit, if you're still on, you're that type of person, okay? So let's do our little framework here again. Okay? So my emotive state, okay? My emotive state. Whoops. Wrong one. Let's use, I did say I was going to use black, right? Let's use this one, okay? So my emotive state might be fear, anxiousness, right? Anxiety, right? Might be, oh, shit, right? If this guy gets a tag on me, man, it's going to be, not good, right? So this is going to cause my body to act a certain way, right? I'm going to cause it to act a certain way. Right? I might be, do as you choose. There it is. Take your shot. Okay? I might be there, right? I might be defensive, right? This is fear in a different way, right? Defensive and covering, right? This kind of thing, right? So I might be, there's a need for time and space. This one, there's a need to act now, right? Fucking go now, right? I gotta end this thing quickly, right? This one, I don't know, okay? Right? I'm gonna pull away, cover things, right? Okay, so it's not the same as this guy over here. This guy's like, right? It's a trap, right? This guy over here, right? This is more of a commanding the situation kind of position, right? In charge. Okay? The mindset and the feeling is, you've got to be kidding me. Dude, this fight's already won and you're already laying on the ground, but if you need to take your shot, I know I look open like this other one, but this other one looks more like a, big old kind of, there it is. It's like the cape for the matador, the bullfighter, right? This guy here, no, you're not winning today, okay? But there can be a conflict between what's going on in the head and what's going on in the heart, because often but if we double back to the last episode, and again, I'll make sure that there's a link to it in the description and or at the end in the end card once we get all this stuff processed, right? If the overwhelming emotional drive isn't that bad, right? Isn't that, I could be in this kind of an emotional kind of thing, but it's not so overwhelming me mentally that I can't think straight. So if I can think straight, but my body's, there's this need to see what's going on and get more information, right? Then there's this whole, what we call a water mode response, right? Where I'm going to use long range defensive angling to pull him out, to break his strength, to overextend him. And I'm going to position, here's where the Tai Sabaki comes in. I'm going to position so my power line meets his balance line and I can take him, right? Okay. I might be here, right? But I know that this he's got some skill, so I need to take the fight to him and get him first. So there's this edge going on. So strategically, right, I think about tuning in and paying attention so it's preemptive attacking, right? So that's the right side of training when things are ideal. Yeah, there's all this emotional stuff going on because it's a freaking fight, right? But I can see his weak points. I understand his style and whatnot. So there's, that side of the brain gets to work more, right? There's this whole other side, left side of training, left Hidati, Segan, whatever, right? That these things are in charge, right? And I need to adjust to that, right? And my body needs to be in better scientific positions based on that kind of emotion because it's driving. It has control of my spinal column, which has control of how my hips and my legs are able to move, all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, again, just kind of dancing around, but this is part of the Kudai Dori as well. Because again, kamae, right? People want to say posture, people even want to say stance, right? Not dachi, okay? Kamae, okay? And the big crux between this, and I think I shared it in a previous episode where I was talking to that Japanese friend. She worked for the Japanese consulate in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada, a bunch of years ago when I met her. And she didn't do martial arts training, right? And I asked her, what does kamae really mean? And I just figured, my English-speaking American teachers could have, kind of waffled a little bit. Not that some of these teachers don't, but what I want to do is just, it was me following my teacher's instructions, right? Double check everything I teach you. So here's a perfect opportunity. There's somebody that's been speaking Japanese, all of her life, right? So is it a common word? Yes, it's a common word. Really? Not just a martial arts word? No, not just a martial arts word. Shit, what's kamae mean? And she said, what kamae means to me is, now tells me it's relative, right? But this really got to the crux of things, right? And here's the connector between the body, the mind, and the spirit. Kamae, at its core, I know, sloppy writing. Being aware of your condition. I can feel and see and whatnot, all the stuff he's doing and see his body move. I can, there's certain things going on in the eyes. I can feel the presence, the intent or not, and what degree it's in, those kind of things, right? What about mind? How am I already at a core level, subconscious, unconscious level? How am I already taking position relative to him before I even move my body? Because my body's already moving. Right? It's already, fists might be tensing or not. I might have relaxed down and shifted to a hip. Like, really? Right? So the first step is in understanding what we're already doing in that situation. So while we can work kamae a lot of different ways, my beginning level students are introduced to things from the left side, right? That raw emotive side. And so they're going to learn to take up their kamae based on the emotional drivers that are leading. Right? Remember, learning curve, do, think, feel. Acting curve, feel, think, act. Feel, think, do. So how about if I learn initially to be aware of my condition, what's already going on, and then take up a kamae that matches that, but it's more scientific, it's more strategically and tactically sound, right? Instead of always just doing the learning stuff, I'm really good in the dojo because I'm on the right side of training. Nobody's here trying to kill me. Nobody's here trying to break me. Now, we might hit a speed that is over my head or whatever, but, not me, but you get the idea as a student, right? We might hit that point and that starts to tell some things and your kamae will start to get a little rough around the edges and all that because there's more emotive stuff going on. This might turn into this, right? So that kind of thing, right? But if I'm not training, right? And so this is how I lead them in, right? Very first thing, you learn your kamae, you learn why they're used and what this is a reflection of. I don't care if you like it, don't like it, or whatever. These are options. Try to be neutral about these. You're going to like some, not like others because of your current personality type and preferences and things like that. Hopefully, as we go along, you're going to become more wise, you're going to become more enlightened, and preferences or not, you're going to see them all as tools, and they're either right or wrong for any given situation. The trick is in selecting the right one. But their first stage is learn it. Their second stage is recognize the emotional state that's occurring so that they can easily slip into the kamae that matches that thing so that when their body and mind draws them in, draws them into the fight, they're not going, yeah. They're going, yeah. Or they're going, yeah. Okay. Or if they're like this, they're not, okay. They're, right. You get the idea? Being able to match these things up so that we can use this stuff in a real world situation is where we're going. And if we're not, then people need to stop saying that they're training for self-defense, because they're really just training to stroke their ego or show off to others or whatever. There's nothing wrong with pride in learning something and being able to do it, right? But if your thing's all about survival, street survival, whatever, right? I know people say self-defense, right? But street survival and all that, there's a whole lot more going on to these things, because there's a whole lot more going on with us, okay? So anyway, love to have you in on the Friday class. The link's right there. You just click over there. You can sign up for it. It's $4.99 for a 75 to 90-minute class, where we're going to be taking a look at some drills and some training that bring this emotive stuff back in, right? So people can practice autonomically going to things and what you're doing, right? We're going to take a look at strategically and tactically what you're doing. When somebody's pressing in, what's he doing, right? What's the principle or concept that he's employing, right, to get an advantage over you? And so, again, using this framework, we're going to take a look at, if he's up here, we're down here, but what is it that we're doing down here, right? If he's down here, we're up here. If he's over here, you get the idea. We're going to take a look at these things so that people get a better understanding of the tactician's mindset, right? The strategist, right? The tactician. How do we apply things in a way that, yep, we're being authentic. There's an emotional drive, and I can't change that in a moment because I have a relative connection with him. He's sending signals, my body's and brain and heart's adapting to that kind of thing. And then my body physically with techniques and skills has to cash the check that my mouth and my brain has been writing in the dojo for a long time. Okay? That's the thing. We'll put some other connections at the end cards, and don't forget, always check the description space if you're on YouTube. Check the descriptions because I load a whole bunch of other stuff in there. Okay? So if this was helpful, great. I'd love it if you leave a comment if there's, if you had a certain aha moment about what I just covered, or if your experience is different. I'm open to debate, right? Except that we'd be debating what, right? Because if you don't have actual street experience against more than one type of a fighter or whatever, and I do, see, okay? So, but we can have a discussion, right? As long as you're not flaming things and, how could a fat old bald guy know what he's talking, just keep that shit to yourself, okay? So, but if you have any questions, or maybe you didn't have a big aha moment, but you still have a question, right? There's something that maybe I didn't answer, right? Put that in there too. I'll get an answer to you, and maybe that'll become the impetus for a whole other Whiteboard Wednesday, right? So that's it for today. Hopefully, we'll be skipping next week because I'll be out of town. Actually, my youngest son is graduating from Air Force boot camp, so we're going to go and see him for a couple of days and whatnot. So we'll try to put something in place so you still have it. But make sure, if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like and whatnot, so YouTube sends you notifications as soon as I put something new up, right? But we've got, oh my God, well over 150 videos over there. There's plenty to check out. Everything, like tomorrow we just started this Throwback Thursday kind of thing. So we're going to be pulling stuff out of the vault, these things that are like, I don't know, 6, 8, 11 years old, whatever, right? And showing those again so that folks can get some use out of these things. But anyway, if this was helpful, let me know. And if you want to talk about things, right? If you want to take your training to the next level, we'll also make sure there's a link down there in the description box where you can actually book a call with me. We'll talk about where you are in your training, where you want to go, right? The gap in between. And regardless of whether you and I ever work together long-term, I'll give you a couple of next step ideas to take your training to the next level, or to get reactivated, or whatever it is that you need to do, right? I'm here to help, okay? I don't need you training with me. What I do need in the world is to make sure that the people who touch my realm, right, are training the way they need to train, so that they don't waste a whole lot of time, effort, money, all that kind of stuff on shit that is going to get them killed when they actually try to use it. Okay? That's it. That's all I got. I'll talk to you next time. Be safe.